Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave. Today I have 14 Glitch in the Matrix and paranormal stories for you. Let's get to it. Case file number 2886, written by Green Pencil. Inbox from elsewhere. Alright, so this happened a couple weeks ago to me and my brother. We go to our dad's every other week. It involves taking a bus from our house to the local train station, then a train to the main city, before taking another train to the city he lives in. When we go, we take the stuff we'll need: headset, webcam, laptop, etc. My brother is very forgetful, and we were in a rush. We get on the bus to head up to the station, and he realizes he left his laptop. He gets off and runs down. I continue to the station and wait for him while he gets back. Now, to make the train to the city where our dad lives, there are 3 trains. When I arrive, the first train is leaving. Since my brother's not here, I wait for him, ask him what's going on, etc. An old lady found his laptop and a stranger gave him money for the bus. Luckily, he arrives just before the next train arrives. Now on the train, we set down our phones and discuss matters of transport. Then I get a message. Lewis, my brother, current name. When's the next train? I think I missed you. I thought this was a joke from him, so I gave him a look of, seriously, you think you can trick me with that? He looked confused, so I showed him the message and his face just dropped. He told me he never sent anything like that, since his phone was on the table of the train. He couldn't have without me seeing. Just to make sure, I read the message from me to him. I assumed it was an old message and just now sent. However, there was nothing. He didn't have anything to hide anyway. I sent a response, but it only went to his phone, which was disappointing. I theorized that it was an alternate reality where he missed the train and I got on it. Yeah, you could have a tech-related glitch, right, where the message was sent, or was supposed to be sent from before, but now it finally reached you. But why would your brother ever send you that even before? Doesn't really make sense. It does seem to fit from a different timeline, which is always interesting. How many variations are there out there? What if there's a super major glitch where almost every multiverse version of your brother would send you a text at the same time, and it would just jam your phone up? That would be something we could actually test, but we'd have to wait for it. It's like trying to, we have these underground detectors for neutrinos, because we do predict this would happen, but trying to interact with a neutrino, because they can pass through like a light year of lead before interacting on average, so you need to have such a isolated chamber, it's so deep underground to detect it. So it's like this, we need some sort of detecting mechanism that is primed and ready to go to detect these other universe messages, text messages or whatever, or phone calls too. Case file number 2887, written by Kaminariden, Seriously Gone. A few minutes ago, I brought my bowl of cereal into the kitchen so I could prepare to clean it. I left it on the counter, and my mom walked in the kitchen and asked if the bowl was mine, and I said yes. She put the bowl in the sink and left. I go to the sink to wash the bowl, and the bowl is gone. There are only 4 other dishes in the sink, and they were plates and 2 pots. The bowl just vanished into thin air. Me and my mom searched the entirety of the kitchen, and there was nothing. The weirdest part is that the bowl came in a pack of 4, and for some reason I found all 4 bowls, but none of them were my cereal bowl, and only one of them were in the kitchen. But it had last night's dinner in it, which could only mean my bowl of cereal never even existed, and there's no evidence, besides my mom and I witnessing it, to prove I even had a bowl of cereal. What is going on? It was Cocoa Puffs, by the way. Yeah, so Cocoa Puffs are not bad. But, whatever developer is in the real world just didn't like your choice of cereal, and they said, delete. Now time for the question of the day. What's your favorite cereal? Mine has to be Fruity Pebbles. Fruit Loops are up there, but yeah, Fruity Pebbles just have this unique sweetness to it, but the texture is really what sells it. Especially when it's in milk for just a little bit, it still has that crunch, but it's also soft on the interior. It's perfect. Case file number 2888, written by Eurobrat. A Tale of 2 Racks. I pulled out my absolute favorite roasting pan this evening, ready to prepare a big batch of beautifully caramelized vegetables for dinner. This pan has been my steadfast companion in the kitchen for years, a reliable workhorse that I've only ever owned in this exact style and design. It's not just for vegetables, of course. It's equally perfect for roasting meats, thanks to its specially fitted rack that allows for even cooking and perfect browning. But here's where the plot thickens. As I lifted the rack out, I realized there are two of them. Identical. Absolutely indistinguishable from one another, as if one had been cloned in the dead of night. I've never bought a second one, never borrowed one, and yet here it is, its twin, sitting smugly in my cupboard. Where did it come from? A cosmic kitchen glitch? A gift from the roasting pan fairy? Or perhaps a quiet hint from the universe that more roasts are in my future? Either way, the mystery of the duplicate rack remains unsolved, at least until my next dinner adventure. So, the title in this story could be misconstrued in a different way. But, honestly, I prefer this one. Having more roasting capacity is, exceptional. Case file number 2889, written by MRMC Bastard. Stars stolen by the night. It was the summer after my freshman year of college. Two of my friends and I were hanging out, wandering around on the gravel roads and cow pastures around one of my friends' houses after dark. We ended up in the middle of this cow pasture, laying on a hill, looking up at the stars. The night was perfectly clear. We were a couple miles outside of town, and it was a small town anyway, so there was no ambient light. It was just pitch black and bright stars. Anyway, we were there for hours staring at the stars and talking about whatever 19-year-olds talk about. I don't remember who saw it first, but we noticed a tiny patch of the sky was completely devoid of stars, and the blank patch was moving. If you hold out your fingers about 1.5 inches apart, and then hold your arm all the way out, that's about how long and wide the blank patch was, though it was roughly triangular. It was hard to tell because we could only see its edges when it passed over a star. It moved its own length in about a second. We tracked it for a couple of minutes before it got too far north toward the horizon to see it. We lived about 100 miles due north of Whiteman Air Force Base, and the thing we saw was heading north, so we speculated that it might have been some military aircraft heading out of the base, possibly one of those triangular B-2 stealth bombers that resided at the base around this time. But that didn't seem quite to fit, seeing as this thing was traveling so slow and made no sound. So the thing we saw was either some low-flying but slow and absolutely silent jet, or it was flying at normal speeds so high we couldn't hear it, but was absolutely mammoth in size. I do try to bring it back and ground it more in reality these days when we're talking about UFOs, probably related to the military, 100 miles from an airbase, well in range of a jet or other B-2 stealth bombers, but how you describe this does seem to imply it has to be something else. Jets make a ton of noise. Given the distance and the size this thing would have to be if it was high enough not to make noise, it's nothing we have. It'd be like in the Avengers movie where they have that giant airship. That's a cool thing. It even did have stealth technology, so maybe the Avengers are out there. Case file number 2890, written by Uneventful Days, The Byte and the Byte. This actually occurred either in the late 90s or early 2000s, back when ICQ and MSN Messenger were popular. I popped downstairs for an apple, and returned to my room to continue a chat, and I remember being oddly aware that the apple in one hand was forcing me to type one-handed. I mean, it was obvious it would, but it felt strange to be conscious of it, and also the cause of the impediment floated into my head, almost like an unconscious sign that I should take note. Then, literally, the next thing I'm aware of was that I was typing with both hands. I immediately had a WTF moment. I know I couldn't have eaten an entire apple, core and all, because A, I was highly aware there is cyanide in apple seeds, and yeah, I know now that a few wouldn't hurt, but didn't then, and B, I have issues with texture and can't stand the texture close to the core and would automatically spit it out if I accidentally bit into it. My mom used to complain about me wasting half the apple when I was a kid, so this wasn't a new quirk. Thinking maybe I had some kind of spaced out moment and uncharacteristically tossed it in my wastebasket, I got up to check, even though I had no memory of getting up. Nothing was there. Went downstairs and checked the trash. Nothing. Hell, I even went outside and hunted around the house because at that point I was convinced I must have spaced out and discarded it somehow, despite nothing of the sort being in my history. The idea of throwing trash out a window is an abomination to me. I wasn't on any meds, didn't do drugs, drank quite a bit on occasion, but never in the daytime. I was totally sober and clear-headed. When my boyfriend came home and I relayed the story, he also conducted a hunt for the missing apple, with no luck. So a DOP happening in real time, where your brain was almost reset because of the event. Your subconscious is always scanning your surroundings, so if something is out of place, maybe it was so traumatic for your unconscious that it had to almost do a mental reset. The apple vanished, but there's no logical way it could. Case file number 2891, written by Local Lobotomy, Memory Rex. I had something happen recently that has been driving me nuts. I was helping my folks go through some of my old toys from childhood to determine what to donate and what to keep, and I stumbled upon this T-Rex toy I was really fond of as a kid. This T-Rex toy is a very specific toy. It's a 1990s Imperial light-up T-Rex. This thing is hefty, almost 1.5 feet tall of hard plastic that's neon green with a voice box in the chest. That when you push the red button on its chest, it roars. Death-giving bootleg Godzilla. Now, this toy has its share of wear and tear, and at one point my childhood dog got a hold of it some years ago and chewed off the foot of its leg. Being a favorite toy, my dad put the foot back on by running a screw through the bottom of the foot up into the leg to keep it in place. Now I chose to keep this bad boy, and packed it up and took it home. I'm almost in my 30s now, and wasn't about to donate this integral part of my childhood, so I packed it up into my closet back at my own place almost an hour away from my parents' place. Now I'd forgotten about the toy in the past few weeks, until the event in question. My partner and I were visiting my folks, and decided to take a walk around the park nearby their place. While walking around this park, I spot something in the grass near a T-ball field. I kid you not, it was a T-Rex toy. Not only that, it has the screw up the leg, just the same as mine. My partner thought I was crazy when I tried to explain why I was so freaked out by it. I took it home to compare it with the one I took home a while back, and it wasn't in the box, despite me distinctly remembering packing it up and taking it home. I asked my folks if there was a chance I may have left it behind originally, but they also remember me packing it up and leaving with it, yet it's not here. And that doesn't explain the park, how to get there. I guess it's possible this is a different T-Rex, but it's the same model, same leg repair. It just doesn't make any sense. Case file number 2892, written by Easton Lake, The Falls That Went Away. I am skeptical of everything paranormal and the like. I like science and simple, rational explanations. People see ghosts, I see car lights, or pipes knocking on something else. I can easily explain it away. I watch ghost videos and conspiracy videos to debunk them and find the real answer. I don't tell other people or ruin anyone's enjoyment. No comments on videos calling it an obvious fake. It's just clean and tidy in my brain. So experiencing something recently that I have absolutely no rational explanation for has been utterly jarring. There is a postcard that has hung on my fridge for the last 14 years. It has moved with me between 3 apartments, and I always return it to the same spot on the top of the fridge. It was, a postcard my best friend sent me while he was on vacation. Back in 2011, I'm in my 40s. My bestie called me, and we talked about how he was going to visit Niagara Falls, a staycation, really, since he lived and lives in western New York. He said aside from going to Clifton Hill is kind of like an amusement park on a street. There are wax museums and arcades and stuff, and drinking and going to the haunted house. He never really even visited the falls, and so he and his partner were going to go to a nice hotel and do touristy stuff to relax. At the time, I was living in Massachusetts, so I asked him if he would mind sending me a postcard from Canada. I like to collect them, and even used to trade with people online. I have a little shoebox with postcards from all over. He said he would, and it was no trouble because hotels usually send mail for guests. True to his word, a few days into his vacation, I received a postcard. It was a very simple and tasteful image of the falls. My friend and I are both silly people, and I half expected something funny or outrageous. There was a little triangle of blue sky in the top right, but the image was mostly of the falls, with what might have been a doctored rainbow in it as well. It got torn in 3 places in the mail: top center, top right corner, and bottom right. The message on the back was short and sweet, and I remember it had no stamp, just a Canada postmark. It made me really happy to have a postcard from a friend, and so it went up on my fridge, rather than into a shoebox. I should say here that I'm autistic. I have spatial awareness, speed reading, and slight social awkwardness. That form of autism. This means I know where everything is always. If I go to a friend's house, my brain catalogs everything visible almost immediately. Friends will always ask me, "Did you see where I put my X?" And I can think for a minute and respond. It's on the coffee table in the living room, and it will be there. I notice when things change immediately. It doesn't usually stress me out, but my brain feels the need to tell me about it. For instance, 5 months back, I watched one too many Dear Modern videos and rearranged my apartment to have a better energy flow. However, to this day, I come out of my bathroom and my brain goes, "Why is a papasan chair in the wrong corner of the room?" Anyway, I kept the postcard in my fridge and just left it there. I like seeing it, and while I was living in Massachusetts, it was a happy reminder of a connection between my friend and I. I had several people comment over the years, asking why I had a picture of Niagara Falls on my fridge, did I travel recently, etc. No, I'm just sentimental, and also don't like changes in my environment. 3 years ago, I moved to Western New York, and I put the postcard of the falls on my fridge as usual, internally chucking that I'm 30 minutes from the real thing. This is silly. But it stayed up there anyway. Multiple times a day, I went to the fridge and saw the falls. A few days ago, I came from the store with a bag of groceries, and after stuffing a bag of frozen mangoes into the freezer, I caught sight of the postcard and just froze. I am blue-screened. I couldn't process what I was seeing. It was so startling, I had to walk into the bathroom for a minute, trying to convince myself I was exhausted, hallucinating, or something, and that it would be back to normal when I went back out there. After a few deep breaths, I went back to the fridge. My postcard, the one I had looked at nearly every day for 14 years, was no longer Niagara Falls, but instead, there was a beach with some buildings on the left, ocean on the right, a little mountain in the distance, deep blue sky, and a huge rainbow covering half the card. My hands were shaking when I pulled it down from behind its dusty magnets. The postmark, dated 2011, was now Hawaii. I turned the card over and over. The tears are in exactly the same place. It's still from my best friend, but instead of going to Niagara Falls, he and his partner went to Hawaii. My brain could not accept this. I needed a rational explanation. After a couple minutes, I decided there must have been a postcard stuck to the front of this one, and the dry air in my apartment finally dried out whatever had stuck together. I knew if I just looked around under things, I would find a Niagara Falls postcard. In hindsight, this was totally irrational, as my brain was ignoring all the past convos about Niagara Falls with the bestie, with people who saw the card, etc. I tore my kitchen apart, groceries still thawing in their bag on the floor, and searched every nook and cranny, under every appliance, behind everything. It was nowhere. I then moved on to check the shoebox of postcards, not there either. And finally, I went through my whole apartment. It's a studio and I'm pretty minimalistic, so it wasn't a lot to search. There was simply no sign of it. No one aside from myself and building maintenance has been in my apartment since I've lived here, by the way. It's too small to entertain anyway, so I visit people at their houses instead. I don't have any pets either, just a couple of houseplants, but I don't think they move around much. I called my friend nervously and asked him about it. He ended up putting the phone on speaker so I could tell his partner about it as well. His partner listened and went quiet. Then he said, "This is too weird because we did consider going to Niagara Falls for a split second." And my bestie chimed in. "Yeah, I remember we were worried about weather or cancellations or something, but in the end we said screw it. How often will we get a chance to go to Hawaii?" They both went quiet for a moment, and I was worried they thought I was crazy when the partner laughed and said, "Oh my god, you're from another timeline. What's it like there? Who's president?" My discomfort vanished and I said, I'm afraid the butterfly flap of you guys going to Niagara Falls instead of Hawaii did not change the election results. That's it. I'm still reeling, honestly. My brain can't grasp what's happening. Is it a glitch? Did I really misremember something I saw every day for 14 years? Something I had multiple conversations about with numerous people? The postcard is still on my fridge, though I might take it down. Makes me a little queasy to see it now, honestly. Wow, this is a fantastic story. Very detailed. And indeed, this is probably just a timeline switch. You went to a different universe. Which, in this case, does more imply quantum immortality, but I always like to try and ponder on the reason for the jump. Does involve, typically, death. So how did you, someone not old, just suddenly die? I mean, it does happen. Could be as simple as a car accident or something like that. But, which is sad, because you did still die, a version of you in a different universe. Your friends over there are mourning you. But you are still persistent in your self-awareness in this version, in this universe. And the only evidence of that so far is just a changing postcard. But keep on the lookout for any other differences, because I'm sure there will be more. But it is funny, yeah. Your friends going to a different vacation spot did not change the presidential outcome. Who knows though, those butterfly wings, they can have quite the impact. Case file number 2893, written by HLT, When Illusion Meets Midnight. I am a skeptic when it comes to ghosts. I think ghost sightings can generally be explained by confusion, craziness, or misinterpretation. However, when I was 17 years old, I was downstairs and decided to go to bed. It was very late at night, and I knew my dad was asleep in his room, and my mother and sister weren't home. I turned the last remaining lights out downstairs, and now the only illumination was coming from the moon through a small skylight at the top of the stairs. It must have been a full moon, because there was enough light to see all the way upstairs, even if it was a little dark. I casually started walking up the stairs, when I saw something or someone move from the toilet door, open, into the cupboard, closed door, directly opposite, about 1 meter apart. Whoever or whatever moved quickly from the toilet into the cupboard. I hate how cliché this sounds, but it was so smooth it was as if they were floating. I wasn't afraid, but I did experience a rush of adrenaline, as I accounted for everyone in my head. Dad, nope. Mom, nope. Sister, nope. Although this wasn't even rational, as the cupboard door was closed and nobody could fit in it anyway. I looked in the toilet room and didn't see anything, and then I opened the cupboard. There was also nothing. I'm still not quite sure what I saw that night. It must have been an illusion of some sort, but I remember at the time being so incredibly sure I saw someone. I do not believe in ghosts, but that was weird. Case file number 2894, written by PC Cube, Fillet-O-Freaky. This happened to me last week. I picked up a packet of 2 steaks from the reduced section. This was about a half hour before the store closed, so the packet even had 2 bright, almost luminous yellow stickers on it. These were beef steaks, by the way. I know for a fact that those were what I brought to the till because I remember looking at the reduced sticker and thinking, do I really want these or will they just end up in the freezer? But I decided to buy them anyway. When I got home and unpacked my shopping bag, the steaks were gone and replaced with a pack of 3 lemon and herb chicken fillets with no reduction stickers on. I do have the receipt at home, and it clearly says something like garlic steak reduc. I'm not going to go back to the store and complain because I ended up enjoying the chicken more than I would have the steak, but it still doesn't explain how 2 reduced beef steaks morphed into non-reduced chicken fillets during the 15 or 20 minute walk home. Well, hey, at least you appreciated the glitch. And chicken is a bit healthier anyway, so embrace it. And you did. Good job. Case file number 2895, written by I Believe in Bass, Splash of Doubt. A little background first. My parents built a pool in our backyard when I was about 3, and I'd been splashing around it ever since I was old enough to stand with my head over the water. It was only 3 to 6 feet deep. However, despite all swim lessons they had me take, I never liked putting my head under the water. So, to try and break me of this phobia, one summer my dad made me swim in the pool every single day and put my head under the water at least once. At first, he would just hold me up in his arms, jump in, we both go under for about half a second, and break the surface with me spluttering frustratedly. Sometimes kids need some tough love. After this event went on for a while, I don't recall how long, I finally got fed up with it and dunked my head myself, receiving all sorts of praise and rewards from my parents afterwards. For a while, I swam like crazy and seemed to be completely over my fear of having my head underwater. Now for the inexplicable event, I remember very, very distinctly standing in my downstairs bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror and saying, "It's okay, I don't need you anymore." After that day, I was again nervous about going underwater, and still am to this day, unless I'm wearing a scuba mask. I don't even like putting my face under the shower for extended periods of time. It's the one memory that still spooks me to this day, and that I am completely unable to explain. Case file number 2896, written by Something to Squirm To, Stewpendous Anomaly. So, I was cooking a large pot of chicken and vegetable soup today. A very hearty, thick batch as I like them. Really more a stew, with lots of ingredients and not a whole lot of water, which needed stirring at least every 5 minutes to avoid starting to stick. When it was almost done, some of the ingredients like split peas need a lot of cooking. I got distracted watching a YouTube video and forgot to stir it for far too long. By the time I checked again, it was clearly burned with a fairly thick layer stuck to the bottom of the pot. I turned off the heat and tried gently scraping some of the stuck layer off without lifting off the burnt layer from the very bottom. Fairly unsuccessful. It was pretty well stuck. Then I spilled a bunch of soup on the stovetop while tilting the pot to try and get a look at how badly it was burnt. Burned enough I was sure I'd have to transfer it to another pot to save the rest of the soup. I was pissed at myself for burning it, and pissed for spilling some, and grumbled away as I cleaned the spilt soup off the stove with about a dozen paper towels. Then I returned to the pot and gave it one more stir while trying to get another look at the burnt layer, this time without spilling it. It was gone! No burnt layer, no stuck layer at all. My flat-edged stir slid smoothly along a perfectly clean pot bottom. No clumps of previous stuck soup matter. Not even any little brown or black stains where something had been stuck to the bottom and scraped off. No evidence that was ever burned or stuck to the bottom at all. I mean, I'm thrilled that my soup is no longer burnt, and that I don't have to scrub the crap out of my pot, but what the fluck? That was about the worst I'd burned a pot in many years, and then it wasn't. Not sure if I should call this a blessing, a little miracle, or a glitch. A lot of these food-related glitches are like the universe correcting your meal for you or giving you more options to cook better food. Whatever it is going on there appeals to my heart tremendously. Good job, universe. And I've had this happen before where I was cooking soup. The red lentil soup is really good, very healthy, but it does tend to stick at the bottom, so you have to stir it often. And if you don't, and you try to stir it then when it's already burnt, you just ruin the whole soup. So, gotta be careful. Case file number 2897, written by Valuable Basil 2112, gassed up and glitched out. This happened twice now. This time it really freaked me out. The first time I walked into the gas station and I picked up a cherry-flavored Anomaly new. I paid and walked out with my drink in a bag. When I got home and took my drink out, it was the peach-flavored one. I was so confused because I knew for a fact I grabbed the cherry one, but I chalked it up to maybe I was looking at the cherry and accidentally grabbed the peach. The second time, a week later, which was today, I went to the same gas station with my husband and we both picked out Ali new flavors. I picked up the watermelon and he picked out the peach. I saw him pick up the peach, and I saw both flavors on the counter when we checked out. Remember the first time, I thought to check. We pay and leave with the drinks in the bag. When we get home, I take out the drinks to put them in the fridge, and they are both watermelons. My husband was shocked too because we both saw that he grabbed the peach. I don't know what is going on, but it definitely feels like some sort of glitch. Case file number 2898, written by Disneyland, Sparkle in the Simulation. I have this somewhat tacky bracelet that I love with diamond pave hearts. I used to wear it daily. One of the diamonds fell out of the middle of my heart a few months ago, and I have not worn it since. Well, today the bracelet is fully intact. When this happened, I was really upset. I vividly remember running my fingernail over where the stone had been to make sure it wasn't just dirty or something, but no, it was indeed missing. I also see this bracelet every time I open my jewelry box. It's always face up, and every time I see it, I get a little upset about it, and I mean to take it to a jeweler but never do, because procrastination. I say all this to say it's not like I just saw it once and misremembered it. This has bothered me for months. What the fluck is happening? While I'm delighted to be able to wear it again, I'm also kinda stunned. When I brought this to my boyfriend, he suggested I had been stoned, not the case, and fully does not believe me. It's not like he went into my jewelry box and did this as a surprise or something. He had seen it maybe once before it broke and wasn't aware that it was broken. I don't know, it's just weird. I always read other people's stories but didn't think anything like this would ever happen to me, and I don't know if it's worth mentioning or has anything to do with it, but I have been tired and sleeping a ton. Today is also my birthday. Is this timeline shifting? Case file number 2899, written by Dirty W. Mouth. The Man Who Lived in Stories. When my sister and I were little, we lived in my mom's wood cabin in the woods. My sister still lives there with my brother because she's in college and he's in high school. Anyway, the house is super old and really picturesque. You think of a log cabin nestled deep in the woods, you think of this home. I lived there until I was 8, and then I went to live with my grandparents, long story. Anyway, I was about 7 and my sister was about 4. We used to play outside a lot together. There was a man named Mr. Johansson who used to come by and play with us. We had a few neighbors, but they weren't very close. Mr. Johansson was an older man with white hair, a gentle smile, and a limp. He'd play hide-and-seek with us and even sit and tell us stories. My sister and I would argue over who he liked the most. He'd always leave us before sundown, and we assumed it was so he could walk home before it got too dark. Anyway, I ended up moving out and my baby brother was born shortly after. Life just changed and we never heard from Mr. Johansson again. My sister and I didn't bring him up until much later in our lives. I'm 24 now and she's almost 21. A few years ago, we brought him to my mother, who insisted she never knew Mr. Johansson, and she didn't remember ever seeing an older man standing over us in the yard. We got kinda creeped out because hey, maybe he was not a good person, or maybe he wasn't alive. My mother's father, my grandfather, owns a log cabin, and he told us an older man named John Johansson lived in the cabin way back in the 40s. His wife died, and he was there all alone. Some say he died of a broken heart, he told us. Mr. Johansson's grown daughter came by to see him one day and found him in the living room by the fireplace. He apparently went peacefully. My sister and I were spooked. We could both tell you exactly what he looked like. I don't know how to explain that, but he was there in our lives for a few years and we enjoyed his company. I have these moments every once in a while that I can't explain, where I almost feel like I pick up on people's brain frequency. I know it's silly, but I'll describe it. I work in a restaurant as a hostess and busser. One time I was standing up at my host stand, which is right next to the salad bar, and these 2 women were getting salads and not speaking. I was bored and my mind started to wander. I was thinking about one thing, and then my mind drifted to wondering about the dresses I left at the dry cleaners. Except, I own no dresses, and I've never been to a dry cleaner. I thought it was odd until one of the women behind me spoke up and said to her friend, "You know that pretty blue dress I wear to Sunday school? Would you believe I had to send it to the dry cleaners because of that pie I got on it?" I turned around and the woman gave me a funny, quit eavesdropping on me look. I figured it was just one of those things and turned back around. Then, another night, we were busy and I was bussing tables. I walked by one table so I could get to the dirty one next to it. The 2 people at the table had their mouths full and weren't currently speaking. My mind started wandering, and I began thinking about the baby I'm currently pregnant with. I thought to myself, even though we didn't think we could have this baby, I still would have considered adoption. I think adoption's a great thing. Then I was like, what the crap? I haven't thought about this in a long time. Then the woman at the table next to me said to her husband, well, the child wasn't hers biologically, but we all know damn well she was her mother. Just because she adopted her doesn't mean she's not her daughter. I had to walk away and shake my head. Yeah, I would love to hear stories from Mr. Johansson. Seems like a swell guy. Definitely not malicious, just a bit lonely. And what's better when you're lonely than to share stories? Now time for the jokes of the day. Knock knock, who's there? Britney Spears. Knock knock, who's there? Britney Spears. Oops, I did it again. I've asked my wife to polish my medieval battle uniform while I go to the pub. She always said she wanted a knight in shiny armor. What's your name, boy? Cop asked the young man. Peter, sir, he replied. D'you have a stutter? Asked the cop kindly. He answered, No, sir, my dad has a stutter, but the guy who filled out my birth certificate was a kind of a jerk. R.I.P. boiling water, you will be missed. No, really, you really steamed me up. Good riddance. I asked the waiter, will my pizza be long? He said, no, it'll be round. Video up here that YouTube thinks you'll like. Check it out and like the video and subscribe. See you next time.